Hi everyone! After trying out the PAUL Rubens opaque watercolors to see how well they would compare with gouache, I decided to try them on black paper to see how they would fare. So I took out my little Fabriano sketchbook and I started sketching with a white watercolor pencil. So white because it stands out well on the black paper, and a watercolor pencil because I knew that adding the gouache with some water would dissolve it and I wouldn't see the lines anymore after that, rather than using a graphite pencil. So using gouache on a black paper, just like using any medium on black paper, it's a little tricky because the black often shows through the colors that you put down. So with gouache, your layers need to be opaque enough so that you don't see the black paper underneath. Now, often the first layers should be thinner and more watered down, but by doing so, you could see that the colors were absorbed by the paper over and over again, so it was a little frustrating at first. I kept on adding layers and layers, and it was just not building the opacity I wanted. And then when I got the opacity and I wanted to blend the layers a little bit with a damp brush, right away it would kind of pull some colors off and then mess it up again. So I had to stop painting for a few days and I decided to put my ceramic palette in my Stay Wet palette, which is basically a plastic box with a wet sponge in it. You can use any box, like a storage box, that should work. And after 4 days, I opened it and the paint was still nice and fresh. So I didn't waste any and I kept on painting. Now, having to stop like that was great actually because it forced me to let the paint dry on the paper, and so it was much easier to apply more layers afterwards and thicker layers, and I was able to obtain the desired opacity. I must say that I probably should have tried on actual watercolor paper. This is not watercolor paper, it's a little thin, but it works fine. I have used it before with gouache with no problem. Now, since I struggled quite a lot at first with my layers, I got a bit frustrated with this painting and I decided to make it not as realistic. So I just loosened up and had more fun that way. And it was much better in the end than fighting to make it look realistic, when to me it felt like I couldn't have achieved it. So you can see that this paint is quite opaque. Is it as opaque as actual gouache? Maybe not quite, but it's pretty darn close. So my next goal is to see how they behave if I use them like watercolors. Because again, these are hybrids between watercolor and gouache, so you're supposed to use them as both or either one. So stay tuned for the upcoming video when I try them as watercolors. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're feeling extra generous and you would like to support this channel, you can always click on the thanks button right next to the share button. Thank you all for stopping by. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you soon with another video. Bye bye.